Hello, the Hosk here. Today's video is about access teams. Now this is one of the new features in CRM 2013 and this will probably almost definitely be on the MB2-703 CRM 2013 customization and configuration exam. There'll be one or two questions, I should think, so you definitely want to know about these. It's also a new feature in CRM 2013, so we want to get to know this so we can start using it and using the new features. It's a kind of an interesting one, access teams. I haven't before I started looking into it, I didn't really know what they were about or what they were for. I know they're a kind of ad hoc way to share records in a kind of easier, kind of quicker way, but I wasn't really sure how that was different from the already the current sharing that is in the CRM, and sort of why you'd kind of want to do that. So this is it was very enlightening for me to have a look at this, and now I'll go through this and hopefully explain how it works to yourselves watching the video. I should mention I did in the previous one of the previous videos go through manage user access, teams and sharing. It might be a good idea for you to go and have a look at that and go through it again to understand teams and the sort of the normal way teams and sharing and user access worked in CRM 2011 before you start on access teams, or you can just go straight in for the access teams. Why not, hey? So let's crack on into CRM. Now, access teams are turned on in an entity level. So you have to go into the entity you want to share your access, create your access team on, and add it in, tick a little box basically. So I'm going to do that on contacts, and you go to contact. This is in my solution, it doesn't matter if it's not in your solution, and then you'll see here that you've got access teams, and so you tick that and then save it. Access teams are one of those kind of changes you can tick and untick, whereas queues and these ones with the little crosses on, once you tick those, you cannot disable them afterwards. But access teams are not like that. A bit more friendly in that respect. Okay, so I've ticked it onto contact. Now the next stage is we want to create a team. No, an access team template. Now basically the way access teams are different in some ways is that they kind of offer a template of sharing records. So say I've got an account there or contact, and I want to always share them with certain certain access rights. So what you do, you create a template, and then every time you share it using this access team template, it will give those same access rights. Whereas in the normal kind of teams and sharing of records in CRM, you have to specify this for each individual user or team and say whether you want delete or any of the access rights. And so it can be a bit slower, whereas this new access team kind of template is meant to kind of speed things up. So you can create more than one team template for each entity, and so you can create one. You may have one which says read only, one where it's like create and update, and so you can sort of quickly share that read only privilege amongst a load of users, or create privilege or delete maybe, whatever you want, It's a quicker way of kind of sharing, and it's a bit more visible, because to see what you're sharing with the traditional one, you have to actually go into the sharing record to see who's enabled and what kind of privileges they've got. So now this, go on to Entity and it will show you all the ones that you've ticked to be available for access teams. So contact, let's go for read-only team. So I'm only going to so he's going to have a bit more, this one. Interestingly, the share privilege, if you grant the share privilege, this means that any user you've added into the team will then be able to add in other users. So that's something to think about. So I've added my team template now. And now what you do, because they're entity level, you have to go onto the entity form and add a subgrid for this, and this will be where you add your users on. You can also add so you can't, it doesn't show you any of your teams here for access teams, but you can create them. So when you create a team, you've got a choice of access, but it just doesn't show them in the list there for some reason. That seems a bit weird, I think, but so anyway, I've created a team there. So, but it never appears in any of the lists, even if you're at all teams. Doesn't show any of your access teams here, so that's a bit slightly unusual, I think. Alright, so now we need to add in back to the Hosk solution, and I'm going to account, and I want to go to the account form, and I want to add, I'm going to add in a subgrid. Now this sort of next bit is a little bit odd, I think, because you just would never guess this. So we're going to add a subgrid. And you need to make it all record types. You need to go for users, and then you need to choose your associated record team members. And then here we've got our two templates, contact, delete, and read only. So we'll just go for delete. So we do that. So this is the kind of this is the settings you have to have, and because these are the two templates I created for the contact, that these are now available. So I can set that. Let's put it there. So we're going to save and publish. So I haven't quite understood yet how you can create access teams, but I can't ever seem to use them. So that's a bit of a waste of time. Right. So now I've added them. Now you can share records. You'll see a grid here with users on. So here's my grid, so I can add the other user I've got. And so now even if he didn't have access to this contact and say this record was in a different business unit, he would now have delete access because I've shared the delete. I've added him to the delete team, access team. And so behind the scenes, what it's doing here is added a, make sure we save it, it's added a new sort of team. So if I go to team of type access, no. And it creates them with the name of the business unit, not the business unit, so it creates them with the GUID. So it gives these access teams a GUID name. So it's quite a good idea to give them a sort of description so you can know which ones are which. So this is contact Ben Hosk. So then at least you can sort of work out which ones are which. And you can add in users here as you did before, like for usual teams. So it's just, so that's what happens with access teams. They you have it puts a little subgrid on the form. You can add in people, and you can basically give them a kind of templated sharing access of this sort of read and delete, and it creates a sort of, it manages and creates a team in the background. So it kind of speeds it up. It makes it a bit more visible, so you can easily see what records are shared. So there are a few other, that's about it to go through the functionality in CRM. There are a few cheeky kind of facts and stats. So you can create more than one access team for each entity, as we went through there. The default number is 2. There's a couple of deployment settings you can add, so you can bump them up if you want to create more. I guess you would. I can't really see you'd have that many for sharing. So yeah, we went through that. System generated access team is created for each record once you've added a user to the subgrid on the entity. If you delete the team, it's basically the same as removing all the users from the team. From the subgrid, basically. If you change the access rights, this is quite important. If you change the access rights on the team template, this will only come into effect for new records that you copy some users into the subgrid, any previous ones will use the previous team template security access privileges. Access teams with a share. So if you have an access template with a share, just means that once you've added a user, he can add in any other users. She's sharing that. You basically can't give any more privileges than your users got. So if you can't delete a record, you can't then add people into that access team to be able to delete the record. You add yourself in, I guess, so you can't do that. Access teams don't show in the team views, in the system views on the system. That seems a bit weird. If you want to delete an access team template, you're going to have to get rid of all the dependencies. So get rid of all the records that have a subgrid using that access team template. You're going to need to get rid of all of them first, and then you can do that. Now this is one of the interesting things. Access teams do not write to the POV principal object access table. Now if you don't know what the principal object access table is, it stores all the kind of rules and all the sharing for users and teams and different access levels. It stores lines on this table with the different privileges for that. And so if you're sharing a lot of records to different users and teams, it can fill up, and this can slow down your system, because basically this POV table is checked every time a user goes to a record or has a look at any records. It has to go and check the table to see if they've got access and they're allowed to do it, and and what kind of access have they got. Can they sort of delete and update? So this has quite fundamental to the system, and lots of sharing can add lots of lines, which can in some cases slow the system down. Access teams don't write to here. I don't know where they write to, but they don't write to there. So it's a good way of sharing, so it won't slow your system down, and it should be quite fast. Access teams also make it sort of more manageable. You can easily see what users can share and see that record, and using the access template you can see what privileges they've got. Right, well, I think that's it. So that's obviously a new feature in CRM 2013. It's quite interesting, and I have a feeling there'll definitely be a couple of questions in the exam, so make sure you know your stuff.